So in the last few weeks, we've talked a lot about optimism, what it is, how to recognize optimism and pessimism within yourself, how to change your pessimistic thinking, and how to use an optimistic explanatory style to help your kids be more optimistic. We also talked about how it's important to balance optimism with the view of realism. And today I want to continue talking about how do we instill optimism within our children. If you remember from the other videos, optimism is so important because it can help us feel more in control of our lives, have better moods, stronger immune systems, better response to stress, predicts well-being, and can actually help us live longer. So you can see why it's so important for us to instill optimism within our kids. So I have a story kind of related to this. One day when I was working in the schools, I had a student that I did an evaluation on. And typically when I completed evaluations, I was with the students for almost the whole morning. So I had finished my evaluation with this one particular boy, and I was walking him back to class. So he asked me, what about gym? Am I going to gym now? And I said, well, I think you missed gym. And he became so upset. He went running down the hallway and yelling at me saying, "You ruined my life." And I was like, oh my gosh, this poor kid. He loves gym and I made him miss class, and I felt really bad about him missing his favorite class. But if you think about that, in reality, I didn't ruin his life. He missed gym one day. They have gym every week. But it gave me a glimpse into his thoughts. For him, missing one little thing that he loved ruined his whole life. So we can it was just one incident, so I kind of have to look at it like, maybe he isn't pessimistic all the time, but that's something I would want to think about and take into consideration. All kids are going to have disappointment in life, but how they think and respond to it is really important in relation to their emotional well-being. So I read this article by a psychologist named Ellen Kennedy Moore. I really loved it, and I wanted to share the information with you because it's related to optimism. I'll also share a link to the article below this video so that if you want to read the whole thing, you can. But I'll also summarize most of it here. So, some kids are naturally optimistic and some kids are naturally pessimistic. We talked a little before about that around 25 to 50% of our optimism or pessimism is related to genetics. But remember, that's great news because we have this other percentage that allows us to work on it and learn optimism. So if you're trying to figure out, is optimism something you need to work on with your kids? A simple way to do that is to start paying attention to any patterns you might hear in the comments they make. For example, do they make comments such as, "I'm horrible at this," "I'll never learn how to do it," "I'll never pass math," "I'll never learn to ride my bike," or maybe self-blaming comments. These are personal and global statements that are very negative about themselves or about the whole picture of something. So you want to pay attention to the pattern. That's the key. You want to look for a pattern. If they just make a pessimistic comment once in a while, that's probably not a big deal. So Dr. Kennedy Moore recommends 5 steps for improving optimism and dealing with pessimistic thinking. So the first step is listening with empathy. So basically you want to listen to your child's feelings and be very accepting of those feelings, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you at times. So you can make a comment such as, "I understand this really makes you upset," to whatever the issue might be. The second step is to take a break from the negativity. Sometimes when we have a negative thought in our head, it's just kind of stuck and we have a hard time getting away from it. So if you can take a break and do something maybe that's fun, or telling a joke, something to kind of break that negative thinking, to get them out of that mode so you can move on to the next step. The third step is to challenge all or nothing thinking. So all or nothing thinking is the thoughts that are everything is horrible, nothing will ever work. And the way you can work on changing that all or nothing thinking is to break things down into more manageable parts. So let's say, for example, your child is having trouble with math. Okay, I'm just going to do something simple like they're working on addition with carrying, and they might be saying things like, I'm horrible at math, I can't get this right, because their answers are not coming out the way they should. So you can break that down and show them what they're doing correctly and what they can work towards improving. So for example, you can say something like, well, look here, you added this correctly and you added this correctly. All you have to do is remember to carry this number right here, and then your answer will come out correct. Okay, so you're breaking it down into what they did right and what they can improve upon. The fourth step is to address complaining. Sometimes kids get into a constant complaining mode, and Dr. Kennedy Moore suggests that having a family rule of, for every complaint someone makes, they have to follow it up with 2 positive statements, kind of to take that complaining out of the mix. The last step involves remembering happy endings, meaning bring up stories from the past that ended well, challenges that ended well, because this brings hope. And hope is what helps us move forward. A good way to do this is to talk about a story where your child felt challenged at first, but then ended up succeeding. And this is a pretty simplistic one, but you can bring up a story like, remember when you were little and you wanted to learn how to ride your bike and you thought you weren't ever going to get it. But look, now you can ride your bike all over the neighborhood. Okay, so just a recap. So today I did a quick review of optimism, why it's important, and that it's essential to balance optimism with realism. I also reviewed 5 steps by Ellen Kennedy Moore about how to help increase optimism with your children, including showing empathy, taking a break from the negative, challenging all or nothing thinking, addressing complaining, and remembering happy endings. I also wanted to just give you a little reminder to continue working on your own optimism by using that ABCDE method that was created partly by Ellis and by Seligman, that is also in the Learned Optimism book. So you want to keep working on that because you are the best model for your children. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to talk more about increasing optimism or other things that you want to discuss related to your family, head on over to michelleberryphd.com and you can get in touch with me more directly. Also, you could email me at michelleberryphd@gmail.com. So I will look forward to seeing you next time. See you in the next video.